Fleur Hassan-Nahoum is deputy mayor of Jerusalem. I never even knew that Jerusalem had a mayor. So this is great. Thank you for being and accepting my invitation. You speak English, Spanish, hebreo también, so we're gonna go back and forth here.
Un poquito de Spanglish, ¿por qué no?
Me encanta.
It is great.
Usted nació en Inglaterra.
So I was born in the UK,
Born in UK.
nací en Inglaterra, me crié en Gibraltar, que es una colonia británica en el sur de España, un poquito como Puerto Rico es como con los Estados Unidos.
Mm-hmm.
We have full rights, autonomy, but we are connected, but we have autonomy within the region, within the country.
And your father was actually the first prime minister of Gibraltar.
That's right.
Was your father, may he rest in peace, was your father the inspiration of your political career and aspirations?
That's a great question. Look, I don't know whether it's inspiration. My parents never really encouraged my sister and I to go into politics because it's a really hard business.
Is it really?
Oh, it's horrible.
Politics not hard at all.
Oh, it's
Everyone's
so
so
bad.
honest.
Oh yeah.
It's so much fun.
Honest. People are so nasty to you. They just think that being a politician gives everybody the permission to just say what they want. And social media has just made that even worse. Mm-hmm. People just like attack you. Honestly, I should do just a show on mean tweets that I get.
What's the worst thing they've said about you?
I'm not sure that you can put it on.
I'm sure we can.
Really?
Yes, I would like to know.
So one guy wrote to me, "Your father should have ejaculated in a sewer rather than you being born."
Are you kidding me?
You need to have a sense of humor.
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, you have to be able to laugh at that because it's disgusting.
Of course you laugh, it's disgusting and
How did
ridiculous.
that make you feel?
There are some people who are really sick out there. But look, I'm not gonna stop putting myself out there to defend and work for my city and my people because there's these crazy haters. I will not fall into hatred. I think also a lot of what I learned from my father, going back to him, is, a lot of politicians build their career on hating on another group. And they get all the media attention because that gets the headlines. I refuse, even if my career will stop or take longer or be slower, I refuse to build my political career on hating on another group, whoever they are.
Talking about groups, Jews, Arabs have had a long history of issues. Unfortunately, that has not gone away. I'm sure you have to deal with a lot of that. What's the most challenging for you of your work and your position?
So first of all, let's put things in historical context. Jews and Arabs are cousins.
Primos.
Islam primos, somos primos.
How do you say primos or cousins in Hebrew?
Bnei dodim.
Bnei dodim.
Bnei dodim.
Bnei dodim.
Pero yo me crié, and the Muslim guy next door, mi madre decía, es un primo. Así me crié. I really was brought up, my mother's from Morocco originally, so she grew up with Muslims. Jews in Spain in the times of before, before the Catholic kings, before that time, Jews and Muslims lived in an era of, coexistencia. That's what it was called. Convivencia, they called it. And so it's not a historical, biblical rivalry. And we have to figure out how did we get here. But the point is that we're living in a country where 20% of our citizens are Arabs, and we live in peace in this country. Then you've got the Palestinians who live under the Palestinian Authority, which is a leadership, a mafia-style leadership, a dictatorship that hasn't had an election in 20 years, who is supposed to be, according to the peace accords that we put together 25 years ago, they're supposed to be responsible for their people. And so we have a terrible situation where we're being accused of discriminating on people that we're not supposed to be responsible for.
We see it on the headlines all the time.
Of course, only because their leadership is bankrupt, non-democratic, and complete kleptocracy, which means they steal from their own people. And somehow, we get the blame. And what's happened in the last, I'd say, 20 years is that the kind of discourse against Israel has become this anti-Zionism. And anti-Zionism the people who are criticizing us want to separate between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism and say, no, you can criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic. But ultimately, anti-Zionism means you are canceling the Jewish people's right to self-determination in our ancestral homeland. And so what you're saying is everybody deserves a home, except the Jews. Now, how is that not anti-Semitism? And so I don't accept this distinction of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. It's the same thing. You're canceling out a full nation. You're canceling out a people. That makes you an anti-Semite.
So what can we do? It's 2022. I mean, information is what it's all about. It's so readily available. Si no te educas es porque no quieres. If you don't want, if you're not educating yourself, it's because you don't want to learn more about a topic. Nos hemos convertido también en sociedades muy egoístas. Si me afecta a mí, if it affects me, it affects me. It doesn't affect another person. Why should I bother with that?
I think it's even more superficial than that.
Okay.
Es la sociedad de los hashtags.
Okay.
Cuando hay un hashtag which is trending.
Por ejemplo, hashtag, and I don't want to get into.
Hashtag Free Palestine.
What is that?
¿Alguien sabe
¿Cómo interpretas?
En un mapa a dónde está Israel y a dónde viven los palestinos? Toda esta gente que se meten en este hashtag. ¿Alguien sabe algo?
¿Por qué crees que la gente entonces siguen utilizando ese hashtag?
Because it's trendy, porque you have influencers like the Hadid sisters que también están con su rollo of promoting their own stuff. They don't know anything either.
But in their minds, you think they're doing well by their people?
Well,
or by their grandparents and ancestors? Or?
Maybe, but what they're basically telling their people and their followers is, let's support a regime that throws LGBTQ people off rooftops, that marry off 12-year-old girls to 30-year-old guys, and that would burn you alive for being a modern woman. That's Free Palestine. They don't know even what they're promoting. They have no idea. They're getting the world to side with a cause that is anti-liberal and democratic values, and nobody knows because it's a hashtag, and it's a hashtag that Gigi Hadid has put out, so it must be good. It's trending, must be right, and nobody scratches the surface to understand what it is they're supporting. And I throw in that group a lot of Jews in America also. They don't know what they're supporting. They don't understand what they're supporting. You have a group called Queers for Palestine.
What do they stand for?
I don't know. But if those people went to Gaza, they would be hung.
Just for being queer? For
being queer. Who are you defending? Who are you standing for? And I actually believe that is this a moral compass
problem, or is it more just an ignorance problem?
Ignorance problem. A real ignorance problem. I don't think people really do understand what they're supporting, what they're not supporting. And then the interlocutors are misleading people. They're misleading people. And then people come. Israel is an apartheid state. You've been here for a few days, right?
I have.
You're walking around. What do you see?
Great people.
You see
great people living in. I've seen Arabs and Jews living in harmony.
In the same street, in the same cafes.
I feel very safe.
Same hotels.
All different to the contrary of what I was told when I first came and visited Israel, that it was a very dangerous place, to be careful, that I should write my will before I jumped on the plane because I might not come back.
Jerusalem is one of the safest capitals in the world.
And why so?
Because, and I'll say that, and I'll say also 40% of our residents are Arabs. And I spend my day as the deputy mayor of Jerusalem building bridges between Arabs and Jews. The only way to face this is to build from the grassroots up friendships, build trust, build connections. That's coexistence. And it's not somebody in somewhere around the world that doesn't even know saying hashtag Free Palestine when they really don't know what they're trying to free or who they're trying to help.
We should definitely educate ourselves a little more.
Yeah, it's not just with this.
And all humans, we can always do better.
Ultimately, what bothers me about, what bothers me is people who have no idea, including celebrities, who have no idea. They can't even spell any of the hashtags that they're using.
I want to get into that. Kanye West, better known now as Ye, is the center of controversy right now. It just so happens that I'm visiting the Holy Land, Jerusalem, where you are. deputy mayor, so I must ask you, must get into this.
Yes, of course.
He called for not DEFCON, but DEFCON to Jews, using the improper spelling of DEFCON. And probably one of the most Googled words right now in the past week or so has been, what is DEFCON or DEFCON? This is a level of preparedness that the United States military uses, and DEFCON 3 being one of the most alertness, right? To be ready for war.
Yeah.
How do you feel, how did you feel when you saw and heard these comments from Kanye West?
Well, Kanye West has been losing the plot for a while now. I mean, he started attacking his own wife a couple of years ago and, you know, went into the whole pro-life thing and got involved in that. And look, what bothers me is that the guy has a huge following and that you could say this man suffers from mental instability and mental health, and we have to be sensitive to that.
Right. When he's spoken out, he's been open about his struggles with bipolar disorder. That he's manic depressive, and that he suffers from paranoia. Yeah.
So we know that about him, but and so if everybody would have said Kanye has gone nuts the way he was speaking, I mean, I don't know whether you know, but he was speaking pro-life against Planned Parenthood, things that us liberal people, you know, and so we could. But the thing is that people are justifying him. People are coming out and saying, no, that's not anti-Semitism. Saying you're going to launch a war against the Jewish people, that's not anti-Semitism. Well, what is it then? And what's disturbing about this is how people have normalized anti-Semitism, how every other discrimination is become a no-no in America. Against, of course, the black community, against the LGBT community, as it should be, against the Latin community. That's a no-no. But somehow, to be anti-Semitic is still, well, maybe because they're white, so it's okay. What is, first of all, since when are Jewish people white? We're from the Middle East, A. But B, what I'm more disturbed than Kanye's rantings of a man with mental health is the people justifying what he's saying. That's even more disturbing.
Do you feel that he's an anti-Semite? Or are you more on the, I'm not asking you to judge his mental, and again, his mental condition,
Look,
and again, we want to be very respectful because mental health is a very real issue.
I'm a big proponent of mental health solutions. I actually created the first ever mental health expo in Israel 6 months ago. So I'm very sensitive to mental health issues. And we have a country of veterans that suffer from PTSD. Believe me, I'm there with you.
So how much of what Kanye has said and done now recently, especially with the like he said, DEFCON 3 on Jews, is you think he's unhinged or he needs help, or it's him playing us in the media and knowing what to say and how to make headlines?
I think it's a combination of all of it. He's obviously, you know, when started to look, why all of a sudden does he hate Jewish people? Why? And it turns out, I didn't even know this until this episode, that Pete Davidson, El Gossip, por favor, Pete Davidson's father is of Jewish ancestry, and apparently that's why he's gone off the ball with this. Quién sabe?
So it might be something against Pete Davidson that dated.
And they've even broken up, so
Kim
what
Kardashian.
does he care anymore?
Right.
I know, it's
his
crazy.
His baby mama, or his mother
his
to...
baby mama.
His mother to 4 of his children.
Yes.
Right. You are a mother of 4.
I am a mother of 4. And the most important thing I teach my children is that we have to respect the other. And that is really the most important thing. If everybody respected the other, then we'd be one and not me and them.
Talking about respect, one thing about respecting others is respecting others' opinions. You and I are both blessed to live in a democratic society where we have freedom of speech that is protected, thank God. It doesn't seem that way lately because everyone attacks you for having your own views and
cancel culture.
So let's talk about cancel culture. What do you feel about cancel? Is it proper to cancel people for their thoughts?
For their thoughts? You can't cancel people for your thoughts. Look, ultimately, I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech. In the UK, I'm a lawyer in the UK, and in the UK, there's a law which I think is less in America because of your constitution, which is called a law against incitement of racial hatred. So incitement of racial hatred is if I go on your radio show and say, come on everybody, let's kill all people with orange hair. That's incitement of...
Clearly.
Yes. So So I think that there's a fine line between freedom of speech and an incitement of racial hatred, but we have to draw that line. The line is you cannot go out from a position of power and encourage violence on any group. That is wrong, should be forbidden, and people should be put in jail and prosecuted for that.
You interpret
Yes.
Kanye's message as that. Exactly.
Again, I'm not sure whether you can say, yes, he's saying I'm going to go to war. He's not, maybe not, because he's not saying let's all go to war against the
You
Jewish
feel threatened as a Jewish person?
I think it's very sad that we're in 2022, 75 years after the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were murdered in an attempted genocide of an entire people, and we're still dealing with this. Why have we not learned anything, for God's sake? Have we not learned anything? Why is this acceptable? Why are people still talking this way? Why are people still hating on others in this way?
Yeah, it's definitely not acceptable, and we definitely must hold hatred accountable, right?
Yes, but I tell you, cancel culture is a whole different thing.
Right.
Cancel culture is, I can't say anything anymore. I can't say anything. Cancel culture is when in a university campus, I, for being the deputy mayor of Jerusalem, are disinvited from speaking because I'm a Zionist, which is what's just happened now in, I think in Berkeley, that they've said that nobody who supports Israel can come and speak. What are you scared of? Can we not now exchange ideas? People cannot even have an opinion anymore. That I don't believe in. One is inciting violence against the people, and one is let's have an honest discussion about Israel and the Palestinians. Let's have an honest discussion about the Israeli-Arab conflict. In many campuses in America, you cannot have an honest conversation anymore. In many campuses in America, you stand there with a flag of Israel and you get beaten up. That's cancel culture. You're canceling me as a people and as a race and as a nation. Why? Because somehow you side with the other in the conflict. Let's talk about it. What are you scared of? Why can't we have an honest conversation? That's cancel culture, and that's dangerous. That's dangerous.
So what you live in, when your position is different, obviously, you're publicly elected office here in Jerusalem, but living in Israel as a Jewish woman, your concerns and what you have to deal with is different than maybe a Jewish man or woman in the United States.
Absolutely. First of all, we are a country that was created and continues to fight for its survival, not just physically, because we are surrounded by enemies, but people that want to cancel our country, and this is okay, and people are hashtagging cancel, destroy Israel, that's okay.
Right. So
we fight on a physical, but we also fight the battle of awareness. We're also fighting the battle of, our even right to exist. Which country in the world is still, or is today, fighting in the conversation for its existence? Is anybody talking about South Korea's existence? Is anybody talking about Guatemala's existence? Argentina's existence? Canada's existence? Any country in Europe? Albania? Kosovo? Kosovo is a 14-year-old country. Do you hear anybody talking about its right to exist? Why are we the only country where this conversation, where this discourse is allowed, is happening? Why? And then they tell me that's not anti-Semitism? What is it then? Coincidence? You just threw a dart and picked a country in the Middle East, right, and decided to hate on them?
Going back on the cancel culture and what's happening now with the Kanye situation, because of his anti-Semitic rant. Chase Bank, Balenciaga, most recently the mother of his 4 children, agency. Kim Kardashian herself came out against what he said. Sarah Kami, who's director of trade and marketing at Adidas, who makes his Yeezy sneakers, which coincidentally I have on and that I like. Do you think should I stop using these shoes? Does it offend you that I use these shoes? Do you think this is the proper way to influence change and to, really tell people that are making mistakes that this is how I'm going to hurt you in the pocket economically? It's
interesting. My son is a big fan of Kanye. What do I tell him? What is he's a young Israeli man who loved Kanye, who also has those shoes. What is he supposed to think now? You know, how is he supposed to react to this? Look, in general, I'm not a fan of boycotts. Israel suffers from this movement, this BDS movement of boycotts. I'm not a fan of boycotts. But at some point, a company has to say, are we going to allow a rabid person, I'm not sure he's a rabid anti-Semite, to continue? So what could Adidas do? Well, they could say, Kanye, you open your mouth on small, we cancel your contract. And then maybe he'll shut up and stop with this vitriol. You know, they could do something. Their silence is deafening. That's the problem, that their silence. And what's even more disturbing is that Adidas has roots in Germany and with the Nazi regime. And so it's, you know, it's ironic and it's sad and I would rather take Kanye and educate him and help him understand how his words are hurting not just, you know, the Jewish people, but his fans who are Jewish. You are saying to them, you know, you are saying to those kids who grew up with him, who admire him, who respect him, you're no longer valid to me. You're not a human to me. He's dehumanizing an entire nation of people, including his fans, like my son, like you wearing his shoes. Imagine he started saying things against the Latin community. How would you feel? What would you do? Tell me.
Horrible. I feel it's probably just as bad as how I feel right now about what he said about the Jewish community.
Yes, and I would feel hurt on your behalf too.
You know, this is it's unacceptable at all levels against any humans. If Kanye is listening or watching right now, what would you tell Kanye right now? Look into this camera here and talk to Kanye.
I think that it's not too late to make things right. It's not too late to turn this around, to make this into a learning experience, to understand that different groups are human, and dehumanizing another people is not going to make you feel better, and is not going to make anybody's life better. And so I urge you to be educated and to seek help.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I feel blessed and very welcomed always in your country. It's been amazing this trip, on my third trip to Israel, to be able to go to Jerusalem and bring my mother.
What I was going to say is, first of all, thank you for coming back. Secondly, que traíste a tu mamá, muy especial. She's having a ball, and good for you that you take your mom places, especially the Holy Land and the Holy City.
Thank you.
And volver, come back.
Claro. A mí me acusan siempre de ser un mama's boy. Le puedes decir a todo el mundo que los israelíes también, igual que los cubanos y los latinos, creo que todos somos mama's boy.
Todos. Aquí tenemos un país entero de mama's boys, porque la madre judía es el carácter central de la familia y lo lleva todo adelante. Y yo tengo 2 niños y 2 niñas. Y mis niños definitivamente son mama's boys.
Muchas gracias por tu tiempo.
Muchas gracias a ti.